morning, everyone. Today is March 7th, and I thought I would give you a tour of my winter backyard garden. My method over the years has been to not clean up any of my dead plants, all of my perennials, leaves on the ground and so on, pine needles piling up beneath the pine trees. I wait usually until the spring, starting in March, to begin my fall cleanup. So as you can see here along this little garden, everything looks quite dead. Here's a red barberry that is looking not so good, but it will come back, of course. And here I have some perennials planted. And in this little stump, I always have a pot with some flowering annuals in. And then as we move along on this trellis, I have been growing clematis vines, so it looks quite pretty. Here I have an arborvitae, which has done pretty well. I think the winters are hard on it, but it comes back and looks nice in the spring. And then I'm going to take a step down. My garden is actually in 3 levels. It goes downhill slightly. So a few years ago, I had some tiers made with little stone walls to help with that sloping. So I'm going to swing around here slowly so you can see how I have these small stone walls to help with that problem. Okay, and then swinging back here, we have the remains. Try to get here so the sun is not so bright. It's actually early morning, so I have that early morning bright sunshine. These are the remains of some tall garden phlox. And this is a Miss Kim lilac, so it's a dwarf lilac. And these Korean lilacs actually bloom a little later in the season. So at my altitude, it's more likely that the blooms will not freeze off when we have late freezes in the spring. On this trellis here, I have planted a silver lace vine, and that needs to be trimmed back. It likes to go climb over my fence into my neighbor's yard. And then right here, I have a coral berry bush, which gets these beautiful pink berries on it in the fall. And then here we have some penstemon and a boxwood, and growing up this long dead aspen tree, I am training clematis, which you will see later on this summer. Now in this area, I have quite a large blue spruce growing. It was planted by the previous owner so close to the fence, as you can see here, that it would literally break through my fence over time, because you all know blue spruces grow quite large. This spring, I'm going to have it limbed up quite a bit, and it will be a shady spot under there, which I'm going to do some planting for. And coming around here, I have a swing, which is nice to enjoy in the summertime. And a little park bench for children. And here, let's see if I can get a view of this tree. I'm going to come around slowly. Here I have a beautiful gray gleam bush, which is, has sort of a bluish color, which I really like in my plants. And this tree here is an autumn purple ash, which it just fills out and is quite pretty in the summer, but also has gorgeous fall color. But I'm going to swing around here slowly, and there's my globe blue spruce. And another large juniper in the middle of my yard. But this tree that you see here in the foreground is diseased. I've been trying to save it for about the past 2 years. But if you take a look closely here at the trunk, you can see it is diseased. So my arborist is going to be coming soon to cut this down. And my plans for this entire area here are to create a raised bed for vegetable gardening. And I think I'm going to enjoy that quite a lot. I was trying to think of the name of this bush a few minutes ago, but it's actually the remains of a Russian sage. Okay, so this poor Canadian chokecherry is going to be going. It's just been limping along for several years, and its life, I think, is about over. I do not recommend planting this tree in your yard because it simply is a very, I would say, trashy tree. You have limbs that die all the time, and they have to be cut out, and it just looks very scraggly. If you look around your area and anyone has one planted, you will notice that. Okay, so we'll swing around here, and this is my shed, my garden shed that I showed in a few other videos. But here I have a really nice grass, and honestly I have forgotten the name of this specific grass. It was sort of an experiment, but it has done very well here. I'll try to see if I can find that name. Now I'm going to step up here. You can see another one of these walls, these stone walls that I had built in my yard to even out the grade of my yard. Here I have a variegated Carl Forster feathery grass, which is very pretty also. I'm a big fan of ornamental grasses. And I'm going to step up, and this area here with the gravel is where I hang my hammock each summer, which is a lovely place to rest when you are wanting to just enjoy the garden. So this little garden area has yarrow, spirea, irises, more yarrow, a barberry, a green barberry plant. In the back there you can see a small dwarf Alberta spruce in these tall, very tall stems sticking up here are from my Joe Pye weed, which, just as you can tell, grows quite large over the course of the summer, and then you are rewarded in late summer with pretty pink blooms on the tops of each one. Now this is this tremendously huge mugo pine that has overtaken this side of my yard, which I am going to also have my arborist trim back pretty soon here in March when he does my other tree, and then I will have a lot more room to garden and things will look much nicer. Over here you can see the remains of my Powys Castle Artemisia, more Carl Forster feather reed grass. I'm just giving you a view of this nice pine tree that's growing in the corner of my yard. And here you can partially see a patio seating area that I have. And here is a very large variegated red twig dogwood plant, which is just gorgeous in the summer. I can't wait for y'all to see it. And then here I have a very large spring snow crab, which has been very healthy, thankfully, and is gorgeous as long as the blooms are not frozen off in the spring. And below it, because it's a very dense tree, provides very good shade here in this entire area. So this is a shade garden with hostas and boxwood. I have a mahonia, well, let's see, Manhattan euonymus, sorry, over there, as well as lots of other shade perennials like pulmonaria, of course they're slipping my mind, but tons of other perennials. And here I have a gorgeous golden privet, which the leaves are kind of bronzy green right now, but it will drop all those leaves in the spring and grow beautiful yellow and greenish yellow leaves. It's a very bright spot in the garden. Okay, so I'm going to back up now. Here I'm close to my juniper. You can see some nice juniper berries on it. Okay, so this is the other side of this garden. You can see I have a bird bath here, but I flip the bird bath upside down in the winter time to prevent it from being cracked from the freezing and thawing. And I'll swing around here. This is the only patch of grass really in my yard. Of course, it's quite brown right now. And then over here we have another garden in front of my porch with more Carl Forster feather reed grass, another beautiful golden privet, and I have various like blue oat grass right here. And there's some perennial sage, the herb here, and other perennials. There's a heuchera right there. And we'll swing around. This is continuing with my shade garden area. Everything looks very dead and dreary right now, but very soon it will change. This is the garden closer to my house. In this pot, I have traditionally planted herbs, basil and parsley in particular. And I have a very large herb here too. I can't think of the name right now, but I will. Fennel, and it is bronze fennel, which I love. And along here, I have more lamb's ears, irises, a lovely in the back here. If you can see it in the shade, there's quite a lovely dwarf Alberta spruce. This plant right here has never done that well in my yard, and I'm going to have that taken out this spring too and replace it. This is a plant that I absolutely love. It is zebra grass, and it has done fantastically in my yard. It just is absolutely gorgeous. So I will be cutting that down soon so the new plant or the new sprigs and stems can start growing up. Here's a pot that I have on my patio, and this is a dwarf mugo pine, and I love mugo pines, I must say. This one is a little too large for this area now, so it's going to be moved to a new home this spring, and it will just do fine there. And here I have another dwarf Alberta spruce. When you have a small yard, these are the best evergreen bushes because they're not going to overtake your yard, and yet they're quite gorgeous. This tree here is my Japanese maple, Japanese tree lilac, which gets blooms, white blooms on it in the spring. And then I have some nice red twig dogwood bushes right here. Here's another dwarf Alberta spruce. We have a Weigela in here and some more asters. And you can see here a bird bath that I have, which is cracked and can't hold water anymore, so I turned it into a stand for some annual plants with this blue kind of large container. Okay, because the sun is so bright, it's a little hard to see some areas, but these are the steps leading up to my deck or my porch. It's more like a porch these days. And that's about it for today. There's that Manhattan euonymus that looks great throughout the winter. And I will have another tour, of course, as the spring comes, to show you what's happening in my garden. And I hope you enjoyed this little tour of the winter garden. Thank you.